Welcome back to forthcoming Newsroom. Now it's time for our international press review. In the papers, standing by, Gulliver Cragg, who's been trawling through papers from across the world. So I gather we're going to start with Algeria, because, of course, campaigning's ended today.
Well, the presidential election is tomorrow. We can start with a look at the Quotidien d'Oran, which has an account of the incumbent and favourite Abdelaziz Bouteflika's last rally. The headline there is a general amnesty by referendum. That means an amnesty for all Islamist militants, even those guilty of what's known as blood crimes, but only if the Algerian people vote in a referendum to give that amnesty. That was the big promise that Bouteflika made in that last rally, a rally that otherwise, according to the article in the Quotidien d'Oran, seems to have been characterised mainly by cheers by a rather implausibly fanatical young crowd of supporters of the president. There are so many exclamation marks in this article that I'm thinking maybe there's a little bit of a tinge of irony there.
Well, if I could use irony and not sound too glib, it's worth pointing out Abdelaziz Bouteflika's no spring chicken, is he? Really?
No, he doesn't look so young in the picture there on the Quotidien d'Oran, and his health has been sort of in the back of everybody's minds during this campaign, but not exploited or not been very much talked about, perhaps because what's more at the forefront of many Algerians' minds are the kind of things that are described in the coverage in France's Le Figaro, which is the poverty that is still afflicting so many Algerians despite years of growth under Bouteflika, growth fueled by petrodollars that Le Figaro says has been spent on superficial trappings of development such as a metro system and a big new port, while the Kasbah in the centre of Algiers, which is pictured there, remains in a terrible state of repair and plagued by unemployment and poverty. But of course Bouteflika maintains a very firm grip on Algerian politics. The opposition is either very weak or boycotting this election, so he's a firm favourite to win.
Okay, even though he's standing for a third term, this after that unpopular vote that was held in the Constitution last year, changing the Constitution. Okay, let's move on to Moldova, because of course we've seen very violent protests there.
Yes, an election that's just been and is disputed by the opposition, who have devastated the parliament and the presidency, in the words of Timpul. That's their headline on this opposition newspaper, which has actually been accused by pro-government media of inciting the violence, but it seems to me that its coverage is pretty even-handed. It condemns the degeneration of what were supposed to be peaceful demonstrations, and it notes in big letters on the front page that Voronin is still insisting the elections were free and fair. That's the president, Vladimir Voronin, but the comment pieces in that paper do very much lay the blame for what's happened on him, President Voronin. One of them is called "Whose Fault Is It?" and it's just a whole series of questions that all point to the answer that it's Voronin's fault. Perhaps the most telling of those questions is, who was it that lied to the youth of this country by telling them he was leading them towards Europe when really he was leading them towards Russia? Okay,
now in the last minute, Gulliver, can we talk about Peru, please? Because, of course, Peru is something we're covering in our news bulletins. Fujimori has just been sentenced to 25 years.
Yes, and it's something that very much divides the country. The sentence is greeted as a historic blow against corruption by left-wing newspapers like La Repubblica, while L'Expresso, conservative paper, is still asking questions like, where's the proof and what would have been his motive? There might be a challenge to the verdict, but according to another newspaper, El Comercio, it's a sentence that is very, very unlikely to change on appeal.
Okay, now in 20 seconds, football. Sorry, I was determined to get us onto that.
Is it really the football that matters, is what you might glean from reading Libération's preview of tonight's Champions League match between Liverpool and Chelsea, or is it actually the money? Both clubs are owned by billionaires, two Americans in the case of Liverpool, the Russian Roman Abramovich in the case of Chelsea, but they are all suffering very much at the hands of the economic crisis, to the point that Chelsea players are now going to have to pay for their meals in the canteen.
Oh my God!
Yeah, and with the millions that they earn.
Where will they find the money?
And even pay, if they want to have more than a certain number of their friends attend the game, they're going to have to pay for the tickets themselves. So hard times there.
Yeah, I can't say I'm gutted for them.
So both teams will be counting on a victory this evening to try and boost their chances.
Well, they should with that pace packet. Anyway, that's resentment speaking there. Gulliver Cragg, thank you very much. That wraps up our International Press Review. Do stay with us here at France 24.
Coming next on France 24 Business. Live from the newsroom, analysis of the international event of the day and a guest from around the world commenting. Top Story, Monday to Friday at 8:20 a.m. Paris time on France 24.